We're back to the Neil Haley Show, and I'm excited to welcome first to the program my co-host, Paul Hollis, author of the Hollow Man series. Paul, how are you? And I know you're excited about our guest.
We are we have Frank Fiore again. He is like the king of Western stories, and he has a great new set of a series out now that he's going to tell us about.
All right, so Frank, let's talk about the Jonathan Smyth series some more. We talked more about Jonathan now and his sidekick, but other characters that we should look out for in the series that you've created. Talk about some of them.
Well, Jonathan and Charles Abbott, those are the two main people. There are no other characters that follow through the series, but I am going to introduce a female in the next book, and she will continue with Jonathan. But basically, the characters that the supplemental characters are the ones, or the supporting cast, let's say. They're either the victims of the supposed Jack the Ripper crime, or they are a person that would help them find out about the mystery, or about the assumed murders. So those characters just pop up once and that's it. But when you write a story, you got to have characters that carry the plot through. When I write a story, I create a wireframe, which is a plot. Okay, it's a wireframe. I take that wireframe and I develop it, a plot very thinly. This happens then, this happens then, this happens then, this happens then. And then I create a character that I plug into that wireframe that makes that plot work. Okay. And that character, the plot works in such a way that it reveals what the character's character is. Okay. So what drives plot are characters, and what drives characters is their behavior. So that's how I develop a story.
And very, very interesting. So those two main characters go into whatever that plot is.
Yes.
Jonathan, you talked a lot about, but his sidekick, does he really, how different is he to Jonathan? And when you talk about,
well, he's a Scotland Yard detective. In reality, he poses as a reporter, and that's how he gets into Jonathan's support for him. But Charles is basically like I think I said before in some other interviews, that it's like a 1800s version, a cowboy version of the Sherlock Holmes and Watson, in such a way that that works out that way, because Jonathan uses, or the story uses, Charles Abbott as a Watson who doesn't quite know all the information. So that means he's questioning things that pop up, and that Jonathan says, oh yes, that's the way it is. We're going to develop in that way. So in a way, Charles Abbott, like Watson, he's basically recording what Jonathan's experiences and their experiences, but also he acts as that guy that knows just enough but not enough, and he plays the role almost as the reader.
Okay, I got it. And so definitely Jonathan's a much different person compared to his sidekick. It sounds like what you're telling me. The Scotland Yard thing.
Yeah, well, obviously Charles is a dyed-in-the-wool Scotland Yard tough detective, supposedly, but Jonathan is a sophisticated man. I mean, he's been around the world. He worked in His Majesty's cavalry, and he carries the latest weapon with him, the revolver that has to be cocked. You know, it is a semi-automatic, more or less, and also he's a great horseman. And he wears the finest suits, carries a cane, as opposed to Jonathan, who's a flatfoot. Excuse me, who's Charles, who's a flatfoot.
Excuse me. 100%. That's crazy when you think about a character like that, and what they do and how how that character develops. Very, very, very interesting. The hope is when they get there into the Western world, it's a totally different world than Britain, right? And London and stuff, right? They're used to just a different environment. So it becomes really kind of chaotic for them once they go to the West, right?
Yeah, especially for Charles Abbott. I mean, he doesn't have any idea what the American West is. All he's learned from is the dime novels. Uh, but Jonathan, because he's a world traveler and he's been around different countries of the world working for the or being a member of His Majesty's Cavalry, he blends in pretty well. He's not shocked by the culture that they say. While Charles, he fumbles it. He got to try and figure out how his version of reality fits in with the Wild West.
Definitely, his version is a different type of version for sure, Frank. It's like, what does he do and how does he do it? Understand completely when you're talking about that. If we go into the hope, what is your hope? You add the historical, you had the Westerns, you add the fans who love Westerns in Britain, and it's a perfect mix, right? Especially when, again, they're huge fans, right? In England and all over the UK, right? When it comes to Westerns. So that's where your goal, you're meeting that audience while also bringing some really interesting stuff for readers.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, I wanted to write a unique Western. Okay, they're not the same old Westerns that are out there. I wanted to do a different twist on it, and that idea of Sherlock Holmes and Watson in America, and then you throwing in the mystery, and the action, gunfights, and Indians chasing them, and it's just wonderful. It's just really cool.
Definitely seems fantastic. Best place people can go is your website, right, Frank?
That's correct. Which is in the process, I'm told by my publisher, to be being reformed, and but the website right now is www.frankfiore.com, and you could follow what I'm writing and Jonathan's stories there.
All right, Frank, we appreciate it. You stopping by again. Another great interview, and the book soon's going to be launching, and people can't wait to get their hands on the entire series and more things to come with Frank Fiore. Appreciate it, sir.
You're welcome.
You're listening and watching the Neil Haley Show. We'll be back in just a moment.